Let's get it. Mike Sempervive here with you for the next hour talking professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, which is something we do every single day here on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Tune in, iHeart, American Forces Radio, sportsbyline.com, over-the-air affiliates like the Mightier 1090, podcast, replays via SiriusXM, video streaming on Twitch and YouTube. However you're joining me today, I'd just like to say thank you. Spending a little bit of time with me. As always, there's a lot to get into. It's Friday. You know what that means. Bryan Alvarez is not here. You did not know that until just now, but you have realized it. Maybe for some of you who are really thick, it is sinking in. But unfortunately, when you have children, sometimes they get ill, especially the very smallest ones. You send them off to daycare, you send them off to school. Those places, they're like little petri dishes. And then they come home and they bring home germs. And they make their siblings sick. And then they make you sick. And you know what? I would still rather be Bryan right now in some ways, dealing with very young Hanalei, who's got the sniffles, as opposed to where I'm at right now. Tonight I will be sending my son off to homecoming, his very first one. He is in 9th grade now. I am old. But you know what? If you are missing Bryan, don't worry. He's got something for you. For all of his super followers out there who follow him at Bryan Alvarez on Twitter, he's trying to help out his daughter, make her feel a little bit better. He's going into his bag of magic. He has got a copper English penny trick that he's going to show to all of his super followers right now at Bryan Alvarez. I don't know how many more times I'll bring his name up today. Probably not many more, because we got a lot to get into for real. But if you're missing him, you can check him out there. We'll also be back with Dave Meltzer at some point this weekend on Wrestling Observer Radio. But why don't you just come back with me for now, and we'll get into everything that's taking place in the world of professional wrestling when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Mike Sempervive here with you. Wrestling Observer Live. Bryan Alvarez not here today, tending to some sick youngins, so I'll be in the big chair for the entire show. Got the Red Bull right here. You ready, ASMR kids? Boss man's not here. I love doing this. I don't know why people like that stuff so much, but there you go for all of those who do. But time to get serious here. I was just having a big talk during break with producer Daniel about baseball. And for anybody that's listening to Sports Byline right now, traveling along in your vehicle, wondering what in the world is going on with that game that was rained out yesterday between Cleveland and the Yankees. Top of the sixth right now. Game is all tied up at 2. So as that proceeds, I'll continue to let you know what's going on there. But a whole lot to get into. Deceptively busy weekend. If you are only a WWE or AEW fan, you may not realize that. But if you're a Lucha fan, Triple Mania, Stage 3, for all intents and purposes. I guess that's what this is. AAA this year celebrating their anniversary, 30th year, and they had 3 shows from throughout the year that were their big kind of tentpole shows, or I guess whatever you would make there. They're big triangle shows. But the next one comes up on Fight TV on Saturday night. And I won't go through the entire lineup here. But as Dave Meltzer noted in the newsletter and on Wrestling Observer Radio a couple of days ago, they actually have a legitimate mask versus mask match with big stars. Pentagon Jr. against Viano 4. So I am no Lucha Libre expert by any means. Viano 4 has been around a long, long time. Not that Pentagon Jr. hasn't or anything like that. So I will, just as the bad gambler I am, with no information whatsoever, I'll put my money on Pentagon Jr., but that's just one of the shows that's going to be available for streaming this weekend. New Japan's autumn shows have kicked off, and there's been the World TV Title Tournament, which began last night. First round winners included on this morning's show, Zack Sabre Jr. and David Finlay. That's going to continue on this weekend on New Japan World. Also taking place is the Jim Lynam Memorial Tournament, and short notice, I was not able and just didn't get the chance to reach out to Dr. Keith Lipinski. I always love having him on before this thing takes place for AAW Wrestling out in Chicago. 2-night tournament that's going to be airing on High Spots TV. I've never, independent shows, it's always a crapshoot sometimes, if you have IWTV, if you go through High Spots or Fight TV, sometimes you take a chance on shows and swing and a miss. You catch a promotion on a bad night. Some promotions only have bad nights, but when it comes to AEW, there have been shows that I've never, I'm not going to do a backflip over, and they didn't matches, and that's going to kick off tonight at Logan Square Auditorium in Chicago. Still some tickets available. Yamato is making, I believe, his Chicago debut. Just saw him over the weekend in GCW against Tony Deppen. He's going to be facing off against Zachary Wentz in the first round. Fred Yehai against Calvin Tankman is a first-round match. Davey Richards is in the tournament. Mike Bennett is in the tournament. Manders, Ace Austin, Rich Swann, and Josh Alexander. So, again, on paper, that looks to be a really, really good show. And I've been fired up over some smaller shows that have been taking place recently. And later on, I'm going to get to GLATE. Because for free on YouTube right now, as most of their shows are, the GLATE promotion out of Japan, which is a hybrid promotion. They have a set of shoot-style UWFI wrestling that begins the show, and then it goes into a little bit of a variety show. And if you listen to the Admin Mike Big Audio Nightmare, which is available for free anywhere you get your podcasts and available through f4wonline.com, we spoke a lot about that show, and it had the type of feel that independent shows should want to try to strive for. It was a really good potpourri, a really good eclectic mix of matches, because after the UWFI matches ended, we got Bandito and Commander making their Japanese debuts, and incredible work, especially from Commander. And we know the kind of week that Bandito had on Dynamite. And if you've had a chance to see him in Ring of Honor over the last couple years in AAA, you know how good this guy is. And he's an incredible balance of strength and size, as well as speed and incredible dexterity to do the things that he does. Commander, not as big and not going to fill out anywhere near like Bandito is, but some of the things that he's able to do, some of the footwork and the gymnastics that he is able to do on those ropes was really impressive. And in a smaller setting that he was in, he really took over the room, and I thought that was excellent. So as I said, it's available on Glate's YouTube channel. Hopefully I have a chance to get into a little bit more of that later on, but there is some sad news taking place coming out of Japan early this morning. A guy by the name of Katsuya Kitamura, and for a lot of you out there listening, he's not going to be a name that you know, but I can guarantee you, if you watch New Japan Pro Wrestling in the last 5-6 years and you saw this guy, as Joe Gagne said on his Twitter today, you never forgot him. That's for sure. And even if you couldn't remember his name, you'd go, the really big, huge, muscular, you know the guy, right? You know who I'm talking about, right? Kitamura was a incredible figure, and Tokyo Sports was the one who reported that on Wednesday he passed away of unknown causes at the age of 36 years old. And according to the story, Kitamura felt unwell on Wednesday and called an ambulance to take him to the hospital. His condition apparently worsened very quickly afterwards, and this guy was a absolute monster, and he always was a monster, a physical, I don't want to say freak, because he was only about 6 feet tall, but at 265 pounds, with the amount of muscle mass he put on, he certainly came across as basically a physical freak. When he was in college, he was a really good amateur wrestler, won 3 consecutive national championships in Greco-Roman at 96 kilograms, about 210 pounds in Japan, and he represented Japan at the World Championships in 09 and 10, but his level of wrestling just was not up to par. And you can see some of his, like Cliff Keene's and different types of events he was on as an amateur, you can find on YouTube right now with English announcing and things like that, because they come from the American wrestling flow sports and things like that. But bottom line is, never made it past the round of 32 internationally. And then in June of 2011, he received a 2-year ban from the Japanese anti-doping agency because he tested positive for drostanolone. And I know I probably butchered that, but bottom line with that version of an anabolic steroid, it's used for women who have undergone breast cancer treatment. So one of those things that, well, how'd you get that? Well, he claimed it came from taking supplements that he got internationally. Must have been the same place that Alistair Overeem got his horse meat that one time. But long story short, floated for a little bit, but then ended up getting into the New Japan dojo system. And because of his look, because he was a little bit more of advanced age, they took a completely different tact with him. He was not going to have long excursions going in long learning processes. This was a guy they wanted to learn on the job, and that's exactly what he did. He actually started his career against the Great Okan, and they were basically dojo mates together, and that's how they started their career on these really cool New Japan Lions Gate shows that would take place. He went into a trial series, unfortunately, very early in, got a concussion, and that was the last we heard of him for quite some time. I'll go ahead and finish off a little bit of the story of Kitamura, as well as a whole lot more we need to get into when we come back on Wrestling Observer Live.
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. You're always traveling. What are your top 3 favorite places you've been to?
Okay, Paris, because it was super special. I love to go back to Brazil every time because I see my family and I have such like a great time. And the third one, I had a great, great experience every time I went to Cancun. Mexico is like my third home, I would say.
I love all of those picks, and Cancun is amazing. Like Isla Mujeres, all of that. Oh, so nice.
I want to go there every week. Let me tell you, I have time off. I want to go there.
Hey, girl, hit me up. I will go to Cancun too.
Let's go, girl trip. Let's go.
Hell yeah. Question number 2: if you weren't a wrestler, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
I would be in judos too, for sure. I like being an athlete is my life. I was born to do that. I was born to represent my country. I'm doing this since I was 7 years old. So I for sure would be in judo right now.
Awesome. And question number 3: if you had an all-girl rock band, who'd you pick as your 3 other bandmates? And they can be anybody: celebrity, best friends, wrestlers, people from the past, people from the present, anybody.
Damn, I would say I would have Nyla. Dude, Nyla is the best. Let me tell you,
Awesome.
all her tweets and that, a badass and a funny person. I need to have Nyla with me. She will defend me, and she's gonna make me laugh. So I would Nyla. I would have my sister because she's my best friend. I need her with me. I feel safe around her. She's like younger than me, but I'll say she's older because she's way more responsible. And I would have my little sister. Like she's adopted, but like she's my baby. And like we took her, my family got her when she was 2 months, and she's our baby, our like inspiration, my motivation to keep growing, doing better in life. So I can show her that like you can have a better life no matter where you come from.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so awesome. And there's nothing like a sisterly bond, a sisterly love. It's not replaceable. It's irreplaceable. Question number 4: what's the one item you must always have stocked in your kitchen?
Ooh, in my kitchen, I'm a bad person cooking. I don't cook. I don't have much in my kitchen, but candies.
Yes. Any particular flavors or brands or anything like that?
I would say like Bis is a type of like chocolate. It's a brand from Brazil. I love it.
Back on the show, Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. Who else would use Julia Lang by Westside Gun as a rejoiner? Shout out to the Black Wrestling Podcast, too. Back to Kitamura here, just shortly here. Katsuya Kitamura, who passed away. And as I was saying before we went to break, again, if you had ever seen this guy, you know exactly who I'm talking about here. But his exit from New Japan Pro Wrestling was almost as mythical as his rise through New Japan Pro Wrestling, because, as I mentioned, this was a guy that, because of how he looked, because of his age, and because of the fact that he already had a big reputation, he was not going to be what Ren Narita is doing now. He's not going to go on a 2 to 3 year excursion somewhere just in black boots and black trunks and go out there and try to find his way. They planned his way for him, still with the black boots, still with the black trunks. But because he looked like a maniac, they gave him a really cool mouthpiece to put in, kind of like what Okan is using now with the fangs on it. And he was an incredibly intimidating presence. And their plan was, he's going to learn on the fly in front of everybody. And they had a 7-match trial series for him that was set up in 2018. He debuted in 2017, came along very slowly, mostly in tag matches, a lot of it teaming with the future great Okan. Tomoyuki Oka was his name at the time. But in January of 2018, Kitamura got in this 7-match trial series, and we've seen this plenty of times in pro wrestling, especially in Japan. You get a young guy out there, they face 5, 7, 10 people to see, how they stack up. And usually how this thing works is the young person loses a whole bunch of those matches. Maybe they lose all of them, but sometimes they usually will pull one out at the end. And Kitamura lost to Jay White, lost to Juice Robinson, lost to Yuji Nagata, lost to this person, that person. But everything was going forward to him facing Manabu Nakanishi, who he had been most tied to since he had got to the promotion. And that was set up for March 6, 2018. And unfortunately, that never ended up happening because 2 days before that, during a tag match with Nakanishi against Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano, Kitamura suffered a concussion. And that's kind of the last we heard. New Japan's lack of public comment on Kitamura had a lot of rumors swirling around, but everybody, for the most part, was just curious, okay, well, when's he coming back? How bad is this concussion? And as we would find out, there would be a reason for that. And before I get to it, I'll note one of the only pieces of news that ever dribbled out about Kitamura's condition. And this happened, I believe, after he was released by New Japan. And it came from our own Dave Meltzer when he reported that Kitamura had a serious leg injury from a scooter accident while he was out of action. Okay. And there were a lot of people initially at the time that kind of like, okay, that can't be it. What's really going on? Well, apparently that actually really happened, but quietly, Kitamura officially left the company when his contract lapsed at the end of January of 2019 because he could not get cleared due to heart issues, which company officials believed was due, surprise, to his steroid use. And he quietly went away. After he left wrestling, Kitamura became, no surprise, a competitive bodybuilder and trainer. He had a YouTube. He got into MMA. He had a goofy MMA fight against Bobby Olagun, one of the originators of the goofy MMA fights, a Joe Rogan type, I guess probably would be the closest thing, an actor and a comedian who was also very well schooled in martial arts. But Kitamura fought him for Rising in November of 2021 in kind of a freak show match. But, and Olagun's 55 years old. Well, unfortunately, Kitamura blew up really badly and ended up getting himself choked out. But that was kind of it. Other than this Muscle Orchestra YouTube channel that he had, his days of wrestling were seemingly done. And 36 years old is very young and too young and a sad situation. So, again, one of those guys, you've seen the picture probably on the website. Not many incredible matches or anything like that, but certainly an incredible presence in the ring. So for everybody affected by his passing, big time condolences go out to you. Gonna switch gears here to Saraya, who confirmed that she considered a WWE return and talked to Chris Jericho about why she chose AEW. And before I get to the report that's up on the front page of the Wrestling Observer website, I will point out that Fightful Select had reported on Thursday that before Saraya signed with AEW, she was offered the position of WWE's on-air general manager. And the story noted that Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis had made the decision to release her, but when everything went down with those two and Paul Levesque's incoming regime kicked in the door, when they found out that she was going to be released, Levesque was, quote, shocked that her deal was not renewed. And the article went on to say that despite telling the former Page that the company would be open to medically clearing her, WWE refused to sign off on x-rays that could have opened the door to that return and ignored, quote, 3 extensive health checks, unquote, that she attained in an attempt to come back. Well, this morning, and as you can see, if you didn't have a chance to hear it already, up on the WrestlingObserver.com website, I believe Josh Nason posted it up there. During an appearance on Talk is Jericho, she confirmed that she did talk to Levesque before signing with AEW and did consider returning to WWE. She said Levesque thought it was her decision to leave as he wasn't there at the time and her deal wasn't renewed by McMahon and Laurinaitis. She was thinking about returning but questioned if she would be, quote, 100% happy going back. While she doesn't have issues with WWE, she goes on to say that there were so many years where she could have been utilized more. Chris Jericho revealed that he was pushing Tony Khan to call her at the same time that she was getting calls from WWE, and said that thought that Moxley was going to go back to WWE after a talk that she had with Renee Paquette, and he gave the heads up to Khan again in addition to calling Saraya himself. So she was questioning if there was interest in not hearing from Khan for a few months. But after talking to Jericho, Moxley, and Paquette, and Britt Baker, and then Tony Khan, she wanted to give a new home a shot after doing so much in her long tenure in WWE, as I lose the ability to read what Josh had posted up there on the site. And one of the reasons why she was not really into going back as opposed to trying something new with AEW is because when her Twitch was threatened to be taken away in WWE, she didn't like that. And she talks about having an argument with Stephanie McMahon's assistant about it. Vince McMahon's assistant about it. 6 months later, she said Laurinaitis then gave her the call about the non-renewal of her deal. And she was actually frustrated that she wasted so much of her time there and not being locked down, not having somebody take a percentage of what you're doing, not having somebody being able to tell you what to do in your outside business that's got nothing to do with wrestling if you're an independent contractor. And frankly, even if it does have something to do with wrestling, if you're an independent contractor, she had an issue with that. So that's the reason that Paige decided to go ahead and sign with AEW. I haven't heard the podcast yet. It's Talk is Jericho. Brand new just came out this morning. A little bit more AEWs. Since Jon Moxley was mentioned right there, his contract has been in the news recently and re-signing with AEW. And for subscribers of the website, you would know, because it's Friday, every Friday morning early, the Wrestling Observer newsletter gets posted up there. And the situation with GCW and Jon Moxley in AEW got obviously very sticky and very tricky going into last weekend, with word coming down that Jon Moxley has resigned with AEW and that he would not be doing so much on the indie scene anymore. And it looked like GCW would definitely be one of those things he would not be doing anymore. And that absolutely looks to be the case, because as Dave Meltzer writes in today's Wrestling Observer newsletter, quote, "This also looks to be the last appearance of an AEW wrestler." No specification there. Let me go there. "This also looks to be the last appearance of an AEW wrestler on a GCW show." Any of them, I guess, as Moxley, because of his status and being champion and having to drop the title, was the only AEW wrestler allowed to work for the promotion. It is possible Moxley could get permission again based on who he is, but it wouldn't be advertised and may not happen, which, you know, if you're an independent wrestling show looking to drum up some support, looking to make some money, looking to make an impact in a very crowded field, you kind of want to advertise those things. But unless Khan has a change of heart, the belief is nobody else would be allowed to. Dave goes on to write that the one thing notable in the AEW press release was saying that Moxley would be working exclusively for AEW in New Japan. Some read that as saying he would not be doing any more independent shows, but during the negotiations, Moxley wanted a deal to continue to do independent shows while Khan no longer wanted him to. And I know there's some people going, "Oh man, Tony Khan, Mr. Wrestling, and I love all this stuff, trying to poop on our parade." You're paying Jon Moxley the amount of money you are, and I mean, let's just be fair about this. I kind of don't blame him, but Moxley's still going to be able to do shows. He's just not going to advertise them much in advance, and that's actually one of the things he wanted to do, because if he doesn't feel like going or doesn't feel like it's right, want to spend more time at home, well, that's what he's going to do. Be back from break. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. Bryan Alvarez not here, tending to some sick kids, so he will be back on this show coming up on Monday if you want him before that. One of these 2 days this weekend, I believe Sunday night, he's going to be doing a show with Dave. At least I would believe that he is, and if he's not going to be doing that, he'll definitely be doing one with his friend Vinny. The Bryan and Vinny Show, available only for subscribers at WrestlingObserver.com. For everybody wondering, hey, what's the score of that game? Going into the bottom of the seventh right now, Guardians and Yankees still tied up at 2. Atlanta and Philadelphia, 4:30 today. Los Angeles and San Diego, 8:30. That is Eastern time because I have that kind of bias. This Guardian-Yankees game was rained out yesterday, and I had to ask producer Dom during break, well, okay, what time did they reschedule this thing for? Because, I don't know if Rampage really wants to deal with this, if AEW wants to deal with any more sports than it absolutely has to tonight, because they had enough of that on Wednesday. But obviously the game taking place during the afternoon today. And I got to be honest, and I know there's people that are, LOL, stand up for WWE types, plant your flag types. And look, there's both sides of that. In fact, there's a lot of sides to that because, to the smallest independent promotion in the world, there's somebody who's exactly that way. But anybody that was having a field day and making fun of 983,000 viewers on average for Dynamite Wednesday night with the competition that they had, oh, come on now. And it was down from the 1.038 million who tuned in last week, but the drop was not as significant from the beginning of the show to the end of the show at all. And it drew a 0.32 rating in the 18 to 49 demo, so that's about 417,000 viewers, according to WrestleNomics. And the show's still ranked number 5 for the night in cable and 32 overall. It had a big increase with females 12 to 34, up 41.7%, according to Paul Fontaine on the front page of our website yesterday. And that was one of Dynamite's biggest ratings of the year in that demo for women. So, hey, whoever wanted to watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, which did 1.4 million people between 8 and 9 o'clock, cool. But then those people either... a lot of them, maybe, possibly, since the second hour did only 708,000, they may have turned into Dynamite here. And that was great for them because the guys were down. And how could they not be? I mean, to be honest, if this thing was under 900,000 Actually, I thought it was going to be under 900,000. I thought it could legitimately be like 880,000 because you had Philadelphia and Atlanta, the Major League Baseball game, which I think was the 5th or 6th inning by the time that Dynamite came on. That game is going on. A half hour into Dynamite, you have San Diego and Los Angeles in the other National League playoff game beginning. ESPN had preseason basketball on, and I'm not sure how that does. I'll watch Malika Andrews anytime doing anything. But I don't know if people were really down to watch the Brooklyn Nets, and make fun of them. You can really do that when the season starts. But, it's still the NBA. So I'm sure some eyeballs were there. ESPN2, same thing. Louisiana and Marshall probably didn't do a whole lot, but it's still a Division I college football game that they were in competition with on top of all that other stuff. And, oh, yeah, their sister network, TNT, was showing opening day or opening week hockey games between Boston and Washington, two big markets that, again, hockey is a regional game, and it can do real damage regionally to other numbers. And Boston and Washington are two of those places. Pittsburgh's always been good with that, if I recall. Detroit was always really good with that as well. So even though nationally those games may not do a whole lot, they really hurt you in big cities where you end up starting to atrophy some people between the ages, especially males, of 18 to 49. So there was a second game on later. They had the same problem in Canada, except in a lot of ways it was worse. John Pollock of Post Wrestling posted up the Canadian ratings look, they had Toronto and Montreal going on, and you had Vancouver and Edmonton back-to-back. So they got brutalized. It was their worst numbers up there since September 14th. But here, with the competition that they had, I think it's crazy for anybody to be poking too much fun at that number, especially when you look at it and the fact that it stayed really steady pretty much the whole time. Is it SmackDown? No. But what can be SmackDown? They've had great numbers recently. This may be their best of the bunch because Bray Wyatt will be back tonight at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. I can't imagine if they're doing a whole bunch of nonsense with characters and scary things and all that sort of stuff. There's all those freaky babies that they got at Mardi Gras, all those weird floats with the freaky babies and the beads and the weirdness and all that sort of stuff. It's a hell of a party, but there's a lot of, I don't know a whole lot about that culture and all that stuff going on there. So all them freaky babies, I don't have time for. But if there are some freaky babies that are available to be used, some float-sized freaky babies, maybe Bray Wyatt will use some of them tonight because it looks like, according to Fightful, there is no more Firefly Funhouse. So all of these people that we've seen, maybe they're all going to come to life and not just be standing there as they were in Philadelphia. They may be a part of his arsenal. There are a lot of rumors going around about a lot of different names. We've heard, I believe it was Vincent was talked about on Wrestling Observer Radio and Dutch from Ring of Honor. About possibly, there's been rumors about them. There's been rumors about Abaddon being possibly a fit for whatever is going on with Bray Wyatt. Have no idea. Can't speak on the veracity of any of that sort of stuff, if I use that word correctly, but they look like they're going to have some plans here. And the bottom line is he's going to be back tonight. Got himself a brand new mask apparently as well, too. And what will that do for the ratings? That spike on Monday, I know Bryan is still sitting there right now trying to figure out why people were so interested in Judgment Day and the club or the OC or the Bullet Club, WWE, whatever the hell they are there with Anderson and Gallows and AJ Styles together. And no offense against them, but it wasn't what it was. It was because it was the top of the hour, and WWE's had a lot of buzz, and Bray Wyatt showed up on Sunday, and that's why. And I think for some, I didn't think this way, but I think some people also may look at Judgment Day and go, well, could Bray Wyatt maybe be in there with them or something like that? I don't know. That's speculation. It's a guess trying to get into somebody else's mind, but maybe somebody thought that and saw them all out there and went, okay, maybe that's it. I don't know. But I know that Bray Wyatt and all of the hype behind everything that's been going on here has been leading to bumps in ratings, especially on SmackDown. So can't remember what they did last week. I know it's been, 2-2, and we've had I think it was 2-4 is what it spiked to at 923 a couple of weeks ago. So it'll be interesting to see what the show does tonight. Four-way Intercontinental #1 contenders match is also on the show. Sheamus is going to get another chance to go after the Intercontinental title. He faces Ricochet, Karrion Kross, and Solo Sikoa in this match, and that's an interesting foursome. The one I would say, okay, well, who's not going to win? No offense. I would say that would be Ricochet. I'm going to take him out of the proceedings. Karrion Kross being in this match. Him hossing it up with Sheamus, smart, okay? Anything you can do. I don't know what kind of legs Kross has with the crowd. Good in Philly. Again, that's why I usually am anti-starting a feud with a gimmick match. That was the best case scenario for Drew and Karrion Kross to do that, because unless Karrion Kross is out there beating people up and getting beat up, I don't know. I worry somewhat about, can they gravitate to him in the same way they gravitate to a Riddle, a Rollins, a Lashley, a Lesnar? Okay, maybe not a Lesnar, but those other guys, I don't know. I think they may, in time, gravitate towards Solo Sikoa. And he's really interesting in this scenario because I don't know if I'd have him win. Doesn't really make any sense for him to go up against, Gunther right now. I think Sheamus would be the one that should go up against Gunther one more time, especially because last week he lost his second crack at the Intercontinental title by getting cracked in the head with a shillelagh, so it does kind of make some sense. Now, did he and his crew get revenge at Extreme Rules? Yes, he did. But I would love to see one more match between those two, and I think that makes the most sense. 3 matches between them. If you have Sheamus win at the end somehow, great, wins the IC title. If he doesn't, who cares? As long as they beat the hell out of each other, the match is probably going to be pretty good. So I'm completely down with that. And you know what? That's good for Walter. Sorry, good for Gunther. Because, again, have a series, beat a legitimate guy, great matches, looks good. What do we got next? I don't think Solo Sikoa is going to be next, but it'll be interesting to see how they play and how they decide to get out of that. It could just be as easy as Karrion Kross gets taken out by somebody and Ricochet and Solo Sikoa are dealing with each other and Sheamus just climbs the ladder. Ricochet and Solo Sikoa as a feud, that wouldn't hurt my feelings either. And I know it may not be very exciting for a lot of people on paper, but it puts somebody else in play for the bloodline that can give you good matches against any of those guys, can be a guy that can get beat up by any of the bloodline and really not miss a beat. In fact, he has been beat up by the bloodline before. Solo Sikoa took him, threw him into a garage door, just beat that man with Sami Zayn yelling at him. So if they decide to come out of this with more Ricochet and Solo Sikoa, won't be the worst thing in the world either, because Solo Sikoa, all that guy needs is seasoning. All he needs is time in the ring. And he, at some point, he may not be Roman Reigns, but he can certainly make it to the level of an Uso. And when they need as many stars as they can get, as the Randy Ortons of the world get older and stay injured, and as they try to push into a new frontier, Solo Sikoa is going to be one of those guys. Carmelo Hayes is going to be one of those guys. They absolutely have talent there. They just need to be able to get the work in. This was interesting. And actually, for all the things that I don't want to give Ronda Rousey credit for, like, talking about Sandy Hook, which still will always stick in my craw, but from a wrestling point of view, the idea to have thumbtacks or Legos against Liv Morgan, kind of passe. That was kind of dumb. She and Shayna Baszler actually producing their own segments to explain, like, why their history that WWE wants to ignore every time they're on screen, why that's being ignored, and what their relationship is like. They actually did that for Fox's social media purposes and came up with some stuff to integrate into the story to actually explain what has been going on there. So I would love to see more of this. So points to both of them for just doing wrestling. And I would love to see more of this. I would love to see this encouraged. Obviously, most people probably need to get it, stamped by somebody, because you just don't want people going off and doing everything. But people need to be able to go out and make mistakes and to screw up. And for all this talk that old guys will have about, oh, look at all the air in that punch. You can see the light coming through. And man, you go back and watch old wrestling. Happens all the time. Dudes falling from punches that don't miss, from punches that miss by 3 inches, all that sort of stuff. And the best promo people in the world will stumble over their words. But they had to do that to learn how to get better, to learn how to hit time cues, to do all that sort of stuff that I had to learn on this show. So that should be encouraged. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live.
Question number 5. Where did you go on your first date ever?
My first date ever? I don't remember. Like with Sammy, we went to a trampoline park, but like my first date ever, I don't remember.
You're like, I already forgot about all those others in the past. They're done. Question number 6. What's something people would be shocked to know about you?
Ooh, okay. I feel I'm really like, what's the right word? I'm really silly, and I feel people don't get to know this part of me. I'm always like, Sammy always say that. He was like, when you showed me this like silly part of you, I was shocked because I'm really silly. Like I make face, I make jokes, like, but I need to feel like really comfortable with the person that I am with.
I love that. Question number 7. If one actress could play you in a movie, who would it be?
I don't know this one. First, because I'll be honest with you, I'm bad with names.
I feel you. I'm
really bad with names, like memorize names, like movie names, actors. I don't know. I'm not gonna embarrass myself here with that. I already did it, but let's keep this one.
Well, let's see if you can answer this one. If you could star in any movie, any role, which would it have been?
Damn.
I'll take any answer. If not, we'll just make it something else.
I don't know. I'm embarrassed now. I have no idea.
Hey, it just gives you homework. You can think about it afterwards.
Yeah, I promise I will. And it happens all the time. Like people ask, like, "What's your favorite movie?" And I'm like, "Really, Sammy, the one that we watched 2 days ago. What's the name of it?" I never know.
You know what's funny? In a day from now or 2 days from now, you're gonna see something, be like, "Damn it! I should have said that as my answer."
Always happen. I was like, that was the name. It was so easy. How did I forget? My bad. I'll work on it, I promise.
No worries. Question number 9. What's the coolest thing you've ever done outside of wrestling?
Outside of wrestling? Ooh, so many things. I feel like traveling the world, like, it's a great thing that I learned so much, like, about different cultures. I'm curious. I'm super curious. I love to learn another language. Like, I'm on my way. I want to start, like, learn Italian now. I already started, but I kind of pulled off a little bit. I'm going back. Like, I love to learn about different cultures.
I love that. And question number 10, last question. Describe the best date night.
Netflix, popcorn, wine, Sammy and my cats.
Perfect. Well said.
Back on the show, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive here with you for the next couple of minutes as we put a big old bow on this thing. Top of the 8th right now, 2 outs. Guardians, 2. Yankees, 2. Coming up about a half hour. Atlanta and Philadelphia. For all those people that are still interested in baseball, being a Nationals fan, my season was done around the time that the first pitch happened. Knew it was going to be a long year. My God, it's been a long year. And this has been a long show for all of those people out there that have been saying, I miss Bryan Alvarez. And I know you're out there. I know there's some of you people. I know what you're saying. A lot of you to go, Mike, September doesn't end for us. Okay, it's a year-round thing. This is not just seasonal like the pumpkin spice latte or the apple crisp macchiato. No, September is something that we celebrate year-round. And I appreciate every one of you out there for that. And if you want more of me, you can find me 24/7 on Twitter at Sempervive. Bryan Alvarez, if you're a super follower, like I told you, get some magic in your life. Get some scoops in your life. Get more Bryan Alvarez in your life. You're missing him right now. You need Bryan Alvarez. You want Bryan Alvarez. You can get him as a super follower on his Twitter, Bryan with a Y, Bryan at Bryan Alvarez. Oh, let me not forget about Mr. Jim Valley at Jim Valley. He is going to be in this chair, not this particular chair, because he's on the other side of the country, but he's got his own chair, and he's going to be back in it to do Wrestling Observer Live on Saturday, every single Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. Join him for that because it's going to be super cool tomorrow because he's going to have on Pat LaPrade, which is... that's really cool. He's actually going to have Pat LaPrade on, and I almost said Bertrand Hebert, who is a very frequent collaborator with Pat LaPrade, but he is going to be on the show tomorrow. And, of course, Andrew Zarian will be in this chair on Sunday, 6 p.m. You can't get rid of us except when the break comes and they force us to go. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We shall talk to you again after a while.